everybody. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that I know a lot of you are interested in, which is social media management. It is huge. All the companies need it. Everybody wants it. And if you enjoy spending time on Facebook or Pinterest or Instagram, then you probably have the skills to be a social media manager and you just didn't know it. We're going to be talking to Katie today. Hello, Katie.
Hi.
She is a social media manager. You're out of the States. Where are you located right now?
I'm up in Vermont.
She's up in cold, chilly Vermont.
Snowy, cold, chilly Vermont.
Yes. And she's been doing social media management for quite a long time. So let's talk a little bit about what exactly is social media management that looks like on a day-to-day for you in what you're doing for clients and for businesses.
Sure. Yeah. So social media is really interesting. It's one of those things that I have found over the last 10 years is like every brand that I work with, they define social media management differently. So it can be everything from like thinking about kind of building upwards from just posting content, making sure things get actually published on the right channels at the right time, that you're using the right hashtags, that, you know, you're the last check to make sure the copy looks good, all of that, community management, replying to comments, questions, and DMs, and all of that. That's sort of like the base, and then building up from there. You know, you can have influencer marketing wrapped up into social media management. You can sort of have like content strategy and communication strategy wrapped up into social media management. There's branding wrapped up in it. And so it's really varies, which is why it's so fun.
It is fun. And it's something that it's continuing to grow. And I think a lot of people think, well, how hard could it possibly be to manage a Facebook page? Like nobody would want me to do that. But businesses don't have time for this. And staying on top of the trends and strategies is like a full-time job.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I always am like reminded of when I actually have to have a moment where I'm like actually posting and getting things live is that brands think, or people tend to think, not all brands, so some people know like exactly how complicated and complex it can be, but it's not necessarily, you know, as like simple as like being a button pusher, right? Because these are, when you think about it, like these are every business's first line of communication with their, you know, with their customers. And so there's a lot there, both from like an outward external communication standpoint and also like listening to what customers are saying about you on those channels and helping businesses to understand that and leverage those things.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. You're right. I didn't even think about some of that. So you have a background in social media management before you kind of ventured in off on your own. But one thing that's unique about you, that is the reason why I want to talk with you, is because you've really niched yourself into doing social media management for a particular type of clientele, which I think is really wise. And that's another thing I want to impart. So tell us a little bit about your journey of how you kind of got into this, and how you've kind of focused in on your ideal client and what you're kind of known for in the industry.
Cool. Yeah, I'll try to keep it not too long and wordy. So I started my career at a company called Burton Snowboards, and I kind of just like weaseled my way haphazardly into social media, really. But the thing about them that I really enjoyed, and while I was there, is this sort of evolution of their brand into a sort of like socially and environmentally conscious brand. And they're also a big brand. They're like 500 employees globally, with sort of headquarters all over the world. So that was where I started. And then I had a couple jobs after that. And then when I first started out on my own, I was working with smaller businesses. My first client was a bookstore, a local bookstore, which was really cool, and a little sort of music festival. So both of those were really fun. But fast forward like 18 months, and now I'm really trying to draw a line in the sand and focus on sort of these bigger businesses, mostly just because they're at a place where you're not convincing them that they should be investing in social media. So for me, that's really helpful. I want to work with brands that already know that they want this.
Yeah, that makes sense. You just skip to the here's how I can help you instead of trying to convince someone, please hire me to help your brand. Yeah.
Exactly. And at first, I was really interested in helping some smaller businesses. I'm like, they're the ones that need it, right? But there's something to be said for not selling in what you're doing, just selling in that you can do it the best. And then the other thing that I've kind of tried to start focusing on that is sort of working for Better for the World brand. So just trying to work for businesses that have some sort of big mission that's bigger than themselves. And I think that whether that's the niche or any niche that there is, brands feel good when you sort of have some sort of focus, right? They like see that as an added layer of expertise, as an added layer of like interest that you have in them. And so that becomes appealing to them. So that's been working out really well. I highly recommend niching down.
Yeah, because it's a big world. Social media management is huge, and the amount, businesses, this is a wide net. So just saying you're a social media manager, that's a lot. But if you can cast your net more particular, then you can learn the nuances of just those types of businesses, what they need to be doing on social media, what's working well for them. So I think it's really wise. And I think it's fun because you get to work with really cool brands. They see, oh, she's working with this one that's social conscious, and that's kind of what we're like too. So we think that she knows about us. So it helps you, your clients decide that you're a good fit for them too, right?
Exactly. And if you think about like any sort of marketing, social media included, it's always about the end consumer. So if you're able to say like, I've done this and this has worked really well, and there's some overlap between this consumer market and the one, with the new brand that you're talking to or pitching or whatever, they have that added layer of like confidence, exactly that, how to communicate with their audience in an effective way.
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. It was fun when I got to see what some of your brands are that you worked with. It was just such like odd ones. Like, what isn't one of them like a meat smoking company? I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, two meat brands. Yeah. No, and then even there, it's like what's really cool is I eat a lot of meat. And sorry to people that don't, but in that vein, I was kind of like, okay, I don't want to just be like, the meat industry has a lot of flaws, right? So I don't want to just be working with I don't want to just be like helping flood the market with like poor meat brands. So I like that client is North Country Smokehouse. They're out of New Hampshire and they are still family owned. They are working really hard on they have a certified humane line. They're working really hard to push that as much as sort of the industry will allow them to. They have organic, like nitrate free, all of that stuff. So that helps. It's really funny. Yeah, we have skincare brands, like lifestyle brands, apparel brands. It's kind of all over, but what they all have in common is that they're just like trying to do whatever it is they do in a way that like makes the world a little bit of a better place.
Yeah. And I get it because you're like, well, I like meat. And if I'm going to support and do marketing for a meat company, I want to make sure that it's something that's aligned with my values. And all the other companies see that too. So I love it. I think it was really cool. So let's talk about some of the trends. What do you think are some of the best services in social media management that somebody should be learning, should be paying attention to if they're wanting to get into this in this day and age?
Yeah. So, I think that there's so many layers, like how we spoke about earlier, just the different sort of ways to define social media management. And I think what's cool about social is that you can either try to tackle all of it or you can stay focused on what you're really interested in. So, kind of obviously, like photography, videography, even just like iPhone video skills are really, really important to have. But then like also people try to say like copywriting's dead. It's not, of course. And so so those are some things to think about. Like you could be, if depending on the brand that you want to work with and depending what their sort of initiatives are, same thing goes for channels. Like you can decide that, okay, I want to be a social media manager across every single platform, or I really want to specialize in Pinterest and Instagram and work with brands that like that's where they want to work too. So I don't know whether that's actually trends. But I think that overall, just like a lot of people tout how fast the industry is evolving. But like you said earlier, I think that if you're a user of social media, you're really, really more plugged into the trends than you think when you listen to sort of digital gurus like try to scare everybody. A lot of times that's scare tactics, right? If we tell everybody, if we tell the market how like hard it is to keep up with everything, then they'll think that they can only, you know, that they need me to.
Yeah, they have to follow you and read your stuff. Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense.
But something that I found is, and again, this isn't necessarily a trend, but a trend in how you communicate maybe with a prospect, is that people want clarity and they want simplicity. And like, that's what makes them feel confident in you. So if you can say to them, yeah, things change, but they're not changing quite as quickly as everyone says. And at the end of the day, this all boils down to the fundamentals of marketing. Like, how do we communicate with a person in a way that makes them feel understood, makes them feel like we're listening to them, makes us as a brand feel like we exist for them, not like they exist for us. That's really like the most timeless piece of any marketing, and it's more important than any individual trend that may like come and go. So in terms of trends, I mean, obviously staying in touch with, that's another reason why niching down is good. Like you said, staying in touch with a certain industry and what's trending there, whether that's hashtags, influencers, you know, the sort of like language that's working. One of the things I always do when I'm onboarding a new client is looking at who follows them and clicking and going down the rabbit hole. How do they talk? What's their language? How can I reflect that back to them? And then of course, like, trends, I always think of the things that are changing more rapidly, more on the advertising side. So that's like a whole nother bucket of worms. But I think that like sort of going against the grain and being willing to say that trends aren't actually all that scary, and it all boils down to just the like basics of human contact and connection, has been something that is actually kind of can help set you apart from everybody that, you know, is trying to scare people about how fast social media changes. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. It's kind of like there's fundamental parts of this that are just like the basics of marketing and of human communications and copywriting and imagery. And like, that's all the stuff you really need to worry about. And then you're going to be able to put together a comprehensive strategy, right? And then the trends are going to come and go, but you're going to have this like foundation.
Yeah. Probably one of like the biggest things I think that's changed recently that's important to key in on maybe when you're thinking about like how you can talk to a prospect is that social media really used to be just a brand awareness tool. Like, you just met people on social and that's all there was to it. And now it's really every step